Hi, welcome to the Online Jewelry Academy. I'm John Ahr and I'm your instructor. Today I'm going to teach you how to set a cabochon stone. This is a sterling silver band that is set with a 6mm round cabochon amethyst stone. The ring, of course, comes from the ring project that we made in a different video. The first thing that I want to do is I want to prep the bezel cup to be solderable to the ring. Now to do that, what I want to do is I'm going to place the bezel cup on a soldering pad upside down. And I'm going to apply to the back side a small amount of the silver flux. Now this is a handy or dandy flux, and it can take or withstand a higher temperature. Okay, so we just want to have enough on the back of this just so that the solder can flow. Alright, now setting the paintbrush aside, I'm going to pick up my solder. I'm using hard solder, and I want to apply 1mm square pieces of solder, or pallions of solder, to the back side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put enough pallions in order to flood this back surface with solder. And I'm doing this right away because I want this to have a chance to clean up in the pickle pot. Now remember, the pickle is a mild acid that removes corrosion or oxides from metal surfaces so that you don't have any problem soldering. Okay, so let me set these over here and we'll light the torch. This torch is great. There we go. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is just dry out the flux. Do this slowly. You just want to tickle the piece with the flame just to evaporate the water out of the flux. If you do it too fast, you'll actually make the pallions jump off the piece. Right now they're just kind of vibrating and wiggling around. But as soon as that flux is dry, move in with more heat, keep your flame moving, and you want to go until the material melts and puddles on the back surface. There, it's perfect. Okay, turning off the torch, and I'll just use my tweezers to quench it. Alright, now this is going to go into our pickle pot. Next, prep the ring by filing a flat spot. Apply flux to the back of your bezel cup over the melted solder and balance it on the flat spot made in the previous step. Okay, so I'm going to light the torch. Now, the trick to soldering is to heat the larger piece first so that the smaller element comes to temperature by the heat being channeled through the larger item. So I'm going to start down here and I'm going to heat the ring. Now, the third hand tweezers, those insulated tweezers, are kind of a heat sink. So they're going to take up some of the heat and suck it right away. So I've just got to keep going back and forth, keeping my flame moving. And you can see how the flux is beginning to foam up a little bit. If I just hit it with a little bit of heat, it'll relax it, and the bezel cup will go right back to where it should be. So if you have your solder pick handy, you can, if necessary, take a quick look, and if you need to push things back into place before they solder permanently, you can do that. The trick is to be coordinated and keep that flame moving at all times. Okay, I can tell that the ring is slightly annealed because it has gone dull, and I can actually sit down and I can see the side of the ring better, and I can see underneath the bezel cup from this position. So if I keep heating this ring and heating underneath that bezel cup, eventually what will happen is that bezel cup will just sit down too. Now if you're using an oxygen-assisted torch or a larger torch, this will go much faster. Okay, so I can see that the solder underneath the bezel cup it's flowed, and the bezel cup has sat down. So when I quench this, it shouldn't pop off. Perfect. So now, if you give it a tug, quality control, it's just fine. So we've got a bezel cup soldered to our ring. Next thing I need to do is I need to let this pickle for a little bit, let it clean up, and then we're ready to polish and set our stone. Once your piece is finished pickling, take it out of the pickle and neutralize it in a solution of water and baking soda. Then, using a brass brush, scratch brush the piece till you get a nice shine. Then, polish the piece, and then you're ready to set your stone. After you've finished cleaning and polishing, you're ready for the final step, which is setting the stone. So I've laid out the materials that we're going to need. We have our amethyst cabochon, the ring with the bezel cup attached to it, a bezel rocker, and the ring clamp. Now what I can do is I can bring the stone and place it into the bezel cup. It should just drop right in. So now you can see that the bezel surrounds the stone, but we need to close it down so it holds the stone. So if you imagine a clock, what you want to do is with your bezel rocker, you want to push to the stone, just right up to it, but not onto it, at the locations where you would have the 12, the 3, the 6, and the 9. And do them in opposition so that the stone becomes centered in the mounting. So I'm going to make the first push, so I'll push onto the stone here, I'll turn it around, and I'll push on the other side of the stone in opposition. Now I'll do the other two places. So pushing onto the stone, I'll turn it around, push onto the stone. So now the next step is to actually push a little harder. This first step centered the stone. Now we're actually going to begin this actual setting process. So again, I'm going to make the first push. So I'll push onto the stone here. I'll turn it around, and I'll push on the other side of the stone in opposition. Now I'll do the other two places again. So pushing onto the stone, I'll turn it around, push onto the stone. Now you can see that that stone has gaps in the areas where I didn't push. And the beauty of the bezel rocker is that because it's shaped like the rocker of a rocking chair or a hobby horse, it can rock back and forth. So I want to rock these gaps. I'll start at one area where the bezel is already against the stone and rock to the next one. And again, this operation is done in opposition. So let's start over here. So starting at my first point of contact, I rock to its neighbor. Then I'm going to turn the setting around. There. At the next point of contact, I place the rocker and I rock the bezel onto the stone there. You can always rock backwards too if you want to. Now I just need to do the other two gaps. Again, placing it against the stone, or the bezel area against the stone, and rocking the gap down over to the next section. One left to go. Placing the rocker down and rocking it and pushing the bezel to the stone. So I'm just going to take a quick look here and see if there's any little minor gaps to do. You can change the angle. This angle I was working pretty flat. I can come up now, and I could just go around the top of the bezel, and I just like to do it all the way around just to make sure that everything's nice and tight. Don't want to get any crud like soap scum or dead skin or anything like that underneath the stone or in the bezel, because that will cloud the stone and take away from the beauty of it. There, we're done. So once you're finished, take the wedge out and remove your ring and enjoy it. I hope you have fun making this project. Be sure to check out our other videos and products on the onlinejewelryacademy.com. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.